Hope you're having a good day today. We're going to be thinking about Timothy today and tomorrow. Our hymn today, the hymn Tell Me the Old, Old Story.
Tell me the old story of unseen things above, of Jesus and his glory, of Jesus and his love. Tell me the story simply as to a little child, for I am weak and weary, and helpless and defiled. Tell me the old story. Tell me the old story. Tell me the old story of Jesus and his love.
Looking in Acts 16, verse 1. Then he came to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timothy, the son of a certain Jewish woman who believed, but his father was Greek. He was well spoken of by the brethren who were at Lystra and Iconium. Paul wanted to have him go on with him, and he took him and circumcised him because of the Jews who were in that region, for they all knew that his father was Greek. And as they went through the cities, they delivered to them the decrees which were determined by the apostles and elders at Jerusalem, speaking about the things that happened in chapter 15. What points might we make about the account? Thought we might begin by thinking about this would have been to think about Timothy's parents, and we know from First Timothy, we may look at it tomorrow, and people do think that Timothy's father was not a believer, and I don't think you could conclusively say that based on this passage, but I think you can conclusively say that from First Timothy, where it talks about the faith that was in his mother as well as grandmother. I think that pretty much shows he was not a believer. And so I was thinking about it, how it was a hard life for Timothy's mother. I don't know, the arrangements of their marriage. I don't know how it happened. But here you have a Jewish woman who was married to a Gentile man. And you might consider, for the Jews, what did they do with their children when they were a few days old? And you might think about what his mother would have wanted for him, and yet he was not circumcised. It would have been a hard life for Timothy's mother, both in Judaism, but also now she's a believer. It would have been a difficult life. And yet, of course, she and the faith that was in her and the faith that was in her mother, and Paul was convinced it was in Timothy as well, as he has a good reputation amongst the brethren. But nonetheless, it would have been a hard life from her perspective. It would have been, to look at it from Timothy's perspective, it would have been a hard life for Timothy. Think about that idea of growing up in a house where it's Jew and Gentile. And like I said, I don't know, there's no way to know other than the fact that I do think it's interesting that Timothy was not circumcised. And you can just imagine, the father, did he just put his foot down and say, you ain't going to do that to my son? I don't know. It doesn't say, of course. But it would have been a hard life for Timothy to grow up and in this split house with these people who are going two different directions, and not trying to say that, there wasn't love in the home or anything like that, but surely you understand the difficulties that would involve. And then as she becomes, as she became a Christian, it may have made home life easier. Sort of like point we made, I believe we made in the recent studies. You know, when Paul is talking to the Galatians and he says, I became like you. Jews were now able to live more like Gentiles. And so her becoming a Christian may have made home life quite a bit easier. But regardless, it would have been it was a difficult situation, I think. It likely would have been, surely. Um, but then you think about his father, like I said, he's not a believer. His father wasn't a proselyte. And would it be wrong to say he must have been a hard man? Because surely Timothy's mother was a good influence. And surely Timothy's grandmother was a good influence. And surely, and I know, don't call me Shirley, Timothy was a good influence. And yet his father, there's no indication he ever became a believer. Never became a proselyte to Judaism, and he never became a believer in Christ. And that's sad. When spouses or family members, when they have such good people in their lives, pointing them to Jesus, and yet they never make the journey for themselves. And that is a great sadness, that some people are so hard-headed and hard-hearted, and they make other people's lives difficult, and they don't see it for themselves. Wish they would, but sometimes they just don't. It's their own choices. You don't know why. Cares the world, I guess. Cares the world, deceitfulness of riches, whatever it is, desires for other things, whatever it is, shallow ground. Maybe it's just the wayside. Maybe the whole thing just seemed, unbelievable. Don't know. But it's a sad thing, isn't it, that Timothy's father never came to the faith, as they told the old story. Wasn't that old back then. But as they told the story of the Lord. How sad that he never responded. But Timothy did. And here, as we're introduced to him, again, we'll look at him again tomorrow. A good young fella, has a good reputation in the faith. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.